With a card game like Yu-Gi-Oh, it's always important to set yourself a goal, no matter how big or small, to keep things fresh. And in the year of 2025, I'm setting myself up for the biggest challenge yet, topping YCS Sydney. With only a couple of months to prepare and learn a completely new deck from the ground up, I'm ready to take this challenge head on and utilise the new Ryzeal cards to their fullest potential. This is the road to Master Ryzeal. Before we start the video, I do want to let you guys know that if you hear anything in the background, actually, you know what? Instead of telling you, let's just show you. This is the newest addition to the family. His name is Bruce. If you wanted to leave a comment, be sure to say hello, Bruce.
Hello.
Well, hi!
So yeah, if you notice any noise in the background, it's just this dude running around, playing with all these toys, and being a menace to society. But with all that out of the way, we'll move on to the deck list. Alrighty, starting off with the deck list, we are just going to blitz through just because the deck's subject to change. So starting us off, we've got 3 Ice, 3 X, 3 Sword, and 1 Node for our Ryzeal monsters. For our Feedsmith package, we are playing 3 Engraver, 1 Lacrima, and 1 Luring. For our searches, we're playing 3 Bonfire and 2 Tract. For our Ryzeal cards, we are playing 1 Cross and 1 Plug-in. Going to cut Plug-in for something else or just cut it entirely, just trying to wean off it a little bit. For our hand traps, we are playing 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, 3 Fuel Loss, 2 Bell, and 2 Nib. For our spell non-engine, we are playing 2 Crossout, 1 Core Buy, and 1 Talons. And for our traps, we are playing 3 Imperm. This brings the deck to 42. Need to find some stuff to cut, also some stuff to replace, but overall pretty happy with the list apart from Plug-in. As I said earlier, need to cut this one, just getting the training wheels off for it. Moving on to our extra deck, we are playing 1 Necroquip and 1 Desiree as our fusions, 1 Chaos Angel for our Synchro, 2 Detonators, 2 Duo Drive, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Evil Swarm Exciton Knight as our rank 4s. For rank 6, we are playing Caesar, rank 9, we are playing Aggregator, and for our 12, we are playing Typhon. And for our links, we are playing 1 Requiem, 1 Sequence, and 1 Moon. I would probably cut Abyss Dweller for Agnum Day. I just don't have an Agnum Day on me right now. I know it's super easy to get, but I haven't opened any of the new packs. And for side, we are playing 3 Purelia and 3 Artifact Lancier for our monsters. For our spells, we are playing 3 Thrusts, 1 Duster, and 1 Storm as our thrust targets. For traps, we are playing 1 D-Barrier as a thrust target, and rounding it up, we are playing 3 Sultan Judgments. A card I will be including moving forward from this video is 1 Paradise. Probably going to replace Plug-in for this one. Super strong card, just didn't have it for this video. Another thrust target I am also interested in playing is Daruma Cannon for the Malice matchup. Don't know how good of a tech choice it will be. I'm willing to test it out, see how it goes. With that out of the way, we will be moving on to the feature matches. So for the first 3 rounds, we are doing a little bit of a highlight reel just to make the video a little bit shorter, but we will be focusing a little bit more on the last round. So game 1, we are playing against Malice. It was a pretty quick match. We did manage to get it 2-0. Unfortunately, game 1 I did brick, but we still managed to recover. And round 2, we were able to put up a pretty mean board with Cross, Detonator, and Caesar, getting us our first win of the day. Game 2, we were playing against Azamina White Forest. Unfortunately, Jesse did brick pretty hard with 3 Wanteds. And round 2 was pretty much the same. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to get into the White Forest engine at all during our games, which was quite unfortunate. Although he still does put up a pretty mean board with the Rabbit and the Azamina Omni Negate, we just had enough board breakers and we had an Engraver in hand for us to go for game. Kicking off round 3, we were playing against another Malice, but this time it was Malice Kashtira, piloted by Jackson, so we did have to try and really play as well as we could here. We did open a stupidly good hand with enough starters and non-engine to help us net the first game. And in game 2, he did unfortunately brick on the Kashtira stuff, so he only ended on the Fenrir, Unicorn, and a few set back row, which was answered by our Duster. Pairing the Duster with ways to get into the Fiendsmith and Ryzeal package, we were able to close out game 2, meaning that we are currently 3-0, so we'll make our way to the 4th and final round. Here we are with the all-important round 4, and we are playing against Sky Striker. This is probably the round that I made the most mistakes with. As you'll see in a second, I added Ice Ryzeal off Bonfire, but then normal summoned Lacrima. Don't know why I did that. I think at the time I didn't know how to properly play the Fiendsmith package with the Ryzeal stuff, so I should have normal summoned the Ice Ryzeal off that. And you may notice that I'll make a few other mistakes throughout the rest of this video. I think the nerves of being in the finals got the best of me here, which you may think is silly because it's just locals, but to me, I don't really go undefeated too often, so whenever I do, the nerves do really kick in. And then I go turbo goofy gamer mode. So what I should have done was normal ice, special X'd, search, sword, and then go into Exciton Knight to go into the Fiendsmith combos. So I did really fumble the bag here. As far as I know though, we still aren't being locked by ice or sword, so we can still do everything. So everything here is legal, we just went the wrong way about it. We did set up the Caesar and the Duo Drive, and Duo Drive searches us the node and the cross. We didn't search the plugin because we were already protected from Nibiru with the Caesar on board, and even if the node got stopped by an Imperm or a Veiler or anything like that, we still would have had X'd in hand to go into our detonator. I suppose the only thing that could have stopped us here would have been a Nibiru plus Imperm on the Caesar, but our opponent wasn't playing any hand traps, they were pure board breakers. So from here we do set up the 3 material detonator with aggregator attached, as well as cross and Caesar. Passing turn to our opponent, he unfortunately top decks the evenly matched. This is the bane of my existence here. This is also another reason why I am siding in the judgment. We do choose to keep the detonator on board, which he does try to steal with Snatch Steal. We do decide to pop our own detonator because I don't really want him to have a 3k beater on his field. Not to mention, I was also worried that he'd use the detonator as a Typhon material, which means I wouldn't be able to get it back. However, we are seemingly in the clear here because he just sets 2 and activates multi-roll and passes turns, so we start out our turn by summoning X'd, and we attempt to activate X'd, but X'd gets negated by Widow Anchor. I did also forget to activate Lacrima's effect on his turn to special summon herself, otherwise we could have gone into another rank 4. We do just swing in with a pretty hefty 500 and pass turn to him. On his turn he activates Jamming Waves to destroy the set cross out that I had. For some reason he does activate Droplet here to negate my X'd, and then from here he activates Widow Anchor to steal my X'd. The Widow Anchor does resolve, giving him the X, but he does try to go into Typhon, which he wasn't able to because I didn't go into my extra deck at all on my previous turn. He can't really do anything else here apart from swing at me with another 500 and then pass turn back to me. Again, I forgot to activate Lacrima on his turn to special summon itself, so I could have had another free rank 4 here. But we do start off our turn with Engraver shuffling back the Lacrima in order to special summon it. And then from here we do try to set up the Fiendsmith combo by going into Requiem and then Requiem into Lacrima again. We did go into Duo Drive here to bait out the Widow Anchor effect, because we still had an ice in hand that hadn't been normal summoned yet, so we went into that after being Widow Anchored. So after we normal summoned, we did special out the sword, and then the sword searched us another X. Knowing I couldn't get into Desiree at this point, I opted to go into an XE summon of another detonator, which then gobbled up the aggregator that was already in grave. From here we do swing into him with 5900, leaving him on 1600 left, and then pass back to him. He does draw into a Desires, which he does activate, however we did meet him with the Ash, which gave us the first game. Starting off game 2, we do activate Bonfire, which we use to get Ice. Now I do make that same mistake but with Luri. So we do start out by normal summoning the Luri and then going into the Requiem. Which from here we are just going to go into the Desiree line to stop evenly match. But as I said before, we always start our combos off with Ice if we see it. I think in this case I just looked at my hand and considered the Luri as a card that wasn't going to get used anyway. Which is why I chose to normal summon it, which should never be the case. If you see the Ice in hand with any other Fiendsmith stuff, you always normal summon the Ice. He is by far the best starter to start off with, especially with the Fiendsmith package, because he gets you into the Fiendsmith stuff, and that combo gives you a pretty cool interaction with Necroquip Princess if you do have either Tract or Engraver in hand. Because if you have her on board and you activate the effect of either Tract or Engraver to get a Tract, what she does is she'll net you another draw, which has come up a lot more for me since filming this. Now, luckily we did have enough in hand to get into a duo drive, which did net us the node and the cross. And from here we are going to activate the effect of cross to shuffle back the 2 Ice that were in grave to draw 1. After that we are going to special summon the node and then use its effect to get rid of the duo drive to bring back the X and then go into the detonator. Another important note is typically you should always have the fires in grave to special off of node so they don't get bestialed, or at least that's something that I'm trying to iron out a little bit more with my combos, especially against the Malice matchup. So we pass turn to our opponent, who starts off by activating multi-roll and then activates Area 0, and then from there he normal summons Ray. He then goes chain 1 Area 0 to excavate the top 3 and then chain 2 Ray to tag itself out to special summon from the extra deck. I didn't really want him to excavate the top of his deck, so I did use the detonator pop on the field spell. Ray, however, does resolve with effect, special summoning into Hayate. Now I didn't catch on to this until I read Area 0 properly, but he did special summon Kaina from the extra deck, which Area 0 only allows to special summon from the deck. But I am just going to chalk that down to being a simple misplay. After that he uses multi-rolls effect to send Kaina to make spell cards unrespondable for the rest of the turn. I do use Detonator to try and pop the multi-roll, but unfortunately he does have a droplet, so he activates that, sending the Kaina and another droplet to negate the Desiree and the detonator. He then moves to battle phase, swings it in for a 15. He does attempt to use Hayate's effect to dump a Sky Striker card from deck to grave, to which I responded with Cross, sending Aggregator from Detonator. What I should have also done was use Aggregator's Graveyard effect to negate the multi-roll, but I didn't think to do that. After that, he does attempt to go into Kagari and use Kagari's effect, but I answered it with the Veiler. He then goes into Typhon, shuffling back my Engraver. After that, he passes turn to me. So we start off our turn by shuffling 2 Ryzeal names to draw a card, and then we activate Tract. Tract gets Luri. Luri special summons itself for Requiem. Requiem gets into Lacrima, and then Lacrima dumps the Engraver. We attempt to special summon the Engraver, but he had a set call by waiting for us. So by this point I really wanted to close the gap within the game, so for some reason I attached the Requiem to the Lacrima and then used them as fusion material for Necroquip for additional attack damage. There was probably other lines I could have done to reinforce the board state, but I chose to play a little bit too greedy here, and it did unfortunately cost me the game. So opponent draws into a lightning storm, sets it, and then activates area 0 to send it to look at the top 3 of their deck. I do ash that there, but he does use the effect of multi-roll sending area 0, which then uses its effect in grave to special summon Rose from deck, which he does use to link off into another Hayate. He then goes into battle phase, attacks directly with Hayate, and at this point I've taken 3000 life. He uses Hayate's effect here to dump another Sky Striker card. He then goes main phase 2, goes into Kagari, and then uses Kagari's effect to add Engage, and then uses Engage's effect to get him a Widow Anchor. In addition to getting the Widow Anchor, he also gets the draw one. He then uses Widow Anchor to steal the Necroquip Princess, which he uses as material to go into Sky Striker Ace Zeke, and then uses Zeke's effect to banish the Detonator. He then links off into Shizuku and tries to move to end phase. This is the one time that I do remember to use my Lacrima's Engrave effect to special Requiem, which we then use Requiem's effect to special back into Lacrima. This is probably where the trap could have came in handy a little bit, but I think at this stage I was already pretty much cornered. So we do send the Engraver. He uses Shizuku's end phase effect to search him the Shark Cannon, and then still in end phase he activates Shark Cannon's effect to banish the Engraver. He then uses multi-roll's effect to set 4 and then proceeds to pass to me. Unfortunately, I don't think I had enough to do anything at all, so we will move to the final match. Kicking off game 3, this is probably where I made the most mistakes. I feel like it's important to show off these mistakes so that way I can learn from them, which I feel like I already have learnt so much since playing this match. I'm no longer really ending on suboptimal board states. There's still a few things that I need to iron out, but I feel like those mistakes will be ironed out if I give it enough time to learn a bit more about it. Because I didn't know how to confidently get into the Fiendsmith engine via Exciton Knight, I did go with the pure Ryzeal route. So we go into Duo Drive, and Duo Drive searches us a copy of Ext and Ice. Because at this stage I think we already had the Cross in hand. So I added those two as a way of starting off my next turn as well as extending in case something happened. We then special Node and used its effect to get rid of the Duo Drive to bring back the sword. And then from there we went into Detonator. However, because I was feeling the pressure of time nearly being called, I completely forgot to attach the Aggregator. From here we special the extra sword that we had in hand and go into Abyss Dweller. But again, if I did play properly and went straight for the Disarray, I think I would have saved myself in this round. After we set up the Abyss Dweller, we do use the effect of Cross, shuffling back the Duo Drive and the extra Ryzeal name in grave to draw one. We then set the Judgment that we opened in hand onto the field, and then we pass turn to our opponent, they draw for turn, and then we use the effect of Abyss Dweller. The Yu-Gi-Oh gods must have been looking down on Caleb today because he drew into an evenly matched. We do use Judgment to negate it, but he already opened another evenly matched, so unfortunately we lose most of our board. Again, we choose to keep Detonator on board because he's still our strongest monster to keep. Moving to main phase 2, he then activates Thrust, searching him Engage, and then Engage will search him a multi-roll. After searching multi-roll, he will go ahead and activate Widow Anchor and then negate our Detonator. After negating Detonator, he will activate multi-roll, and then after that he will normal summon Rose, then link off Rose for Kagari. He attempts to activate Kagari's effect, but I meet him with Veiler. After that he'll go into Typhon, then Typhon will spin my Detonator. I did make a mistake by thinking that he was on his 5th summon, but he wasn't, he was on his 4th, so Typhon does go through spinning my Detonator. He then sets one, passes back to me. I draw for turn and normal summon Ice, and attempt to use its effect, but I get met with a Widow Anchor. I then special summon Sword. Sword then gets me X, and I do go into Exciton Knight. This is where the mistakes do start to happen, and this is why you should always special summon X off of Ice, just so we can get that Sword. So we do go into Requiem. Requiem will fetch us the Lacrima. We do use Lacrima's effect, but he does use Rose's effect to special and negate, which shouldn't have happened because Requiem left the field by its own effect. Either way, we do fuse into Necrocrypt Princess and we use X effect to special summon itself. I did make a mistake by using X effect to search because he was locked out of searching with Necrocrypt on board. So the Ice search was an illegal search, but we do go into Detonator, but it doesn't really change too much. We do attempt to use Detonator's effect to attach, but with Typhon on the field we weren't able to. After that we do go into battle phase, Detonator over the Typhon and Princess over the Rose. We do unfortunately have to pass turn here. For his next draw he does get into Widow Anchor, which he does attempt to steal Detonator, but we chose to pop our own Detonator. After that he activates Thrust to get himself an Engage, and then Engage gets him a Ray, as well as a draw. He summons the Ray, goes into Kagari, and then Kagari will add Engage back. Then he activates multi-roll. He then goes into battle phase, swings over our Necroquip, activates Thrust in main phase 2 to get rid of our Nib in hand. He then links off into Azalea. We then take this opportunity to use Lacrima's effect to special Requiem, and then Requiem effect to special Lacrima, and then Lacrima effect to dump the Engraver. Caleb does proceed with the end phase to search himself a Shark Cannon, activate Shark Cannon to banish the Engraver, exactly like last turn. He then proceeds to set 3 and passes back to me. Unfortunately I couldn't do anything else from here, so we decide to scoop, ending our day on a 3-1 record.
We'll chain to the Requiem equip and Shark Cannon. Banish it.
Yep. Don't think I've got anything there. That's exactly how you got me the last turn.
Yeah.
Okay, we are back. I just wanted to give a quick review of how the deck performed before we close off the video. So we went 3-1, meaning that we got second place. We probably could have gotten first if I played a little bit more correctly, but that is not the deck's fault. That is more so mine. But yeah, I am loving the boards that this deck can put out. The Fiendsmith stuff is just really cracked in this deck. I'm sure once I learn the combos properly. I did like how the side deck performed. Lancia was amazing, Perulia was awesome, the thrust and thrust targets were phenomenal. The Solemn Judgment was easily my favorite card to side N going first, because playing against Malice, they usually do the bait and switch where they'll set a card then normal summon. You just flip this before they activate any effect, and because Solemn Judgment is Solemn Judgment, they can't respond with their traps, so that's why I think this card is brilliant. The extra deck was pretty good. There's not too much that I would change outside outside of the Abyss Dweller for the Agnum Day. So yeah, real quick before we do go, I did want to say thank you to everyone for showing so much support regarding the videos. As of today, we just crossed 1,000 views over 3 different videos, which is insane to me that people are willing to watch stuff that I've produced. So yeah, it really does mean the most, and if you are enjoying the content, please consider subscribing. But with that out of the way, we will see you in the next one. That's game.